Yeah.
Don't say that when we're live.
It's gonna be.
I think I said maybe I might have got it in before.
We're live now, and I'm gonna say this is bad.
We watched everything.
Saw every show or every game. I mean,
and we have all 5 people here.
Right.
If the title of the show is not half-assing,
Oop, that's me. Bad. Got it.
Then... What?
I think I had an echo because I had the YouTube open.
Oh, you're good. Didn't come through, so that's nice.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything.
Okay, good. Oh,
it's when it comes through. Yeah, when it comes through, it's really screwy.
Yeah, I'm wearing headphones. That's why I didn't come through, because it just went in my headphones. And it panicked me.
All right. Take that out. Oh, for real?
So I found out the store the other day. Incline Cider Company. It's apparently brewed in Washington. They have a really good blood orange cider with some hops in it. It's pretty good.
The cider's good from time to time.
Oh,
but almost could be really expensive.
It was on sale for $10 for a 6-pack.
Oh, I see what's going on here.
I could just live for the cheap stuff. Breads.
I paid off my student loans. I don't have to go for the cheap stuff anymore.
Yeah, so what is your what are you saving every month now?
$210.
Freaking A, dude. That's amazing.
I have gray in my beard. I'm starting to get gray in my hair. And I only paid them off ahead of time. They were, if I had still done this regular schedule, it would have been September of 2022.
It's insane.
It's 3.5 years away. It's like, God damn it.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
You guys should have married a rich girl. Just saying.
Well, my wife was born in Alaska, and so, you know, that her parents saved all the money that the state pays you to live there, and so her college was free. So she didn't have any student debt, or not free, but I mean, she saved up enough to be able to pay for college, so there was no debt.
That's amazing.
All my debt came from graduate school, which 2 semesters in graduate school, and it took me 13 years to pay off.
Oh, you did graduate school?
Yeah.
Crazy.
I didn't finish.
Okay, I was going to say.
But
crazy. All right, we better get started, though. You guys good to wing it? We're going to blow through this as fast as we can. Does that sound good?
Fast? All right. I'm game.
Hey, wing it sounds like our style.
Of course.
All right, here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the USL show. It is brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network, and we are sponsored by Roughneck Scarves. We got a fun show for you today. There's 3 of us, the 3 amigos, if you will. Los Tres Amigos. That's Spanish for the 3 amigos. I figured that out. It only took about 5 seconds of pausing to do it. Let's hurry up and introduce someone else before I say something else. Evan is here, as in USL Pony. Evan is here, not the other Evan. Pony, how's it going, man?
Not bad. It's a Tuesday.
Feels like a Tuesday for sure. Kevin's here. Big Kev McCamish.
I am here. Yes.
How's it going,
I'm not selling cheese, so I can be here.
Yeah, right. There you go. You know what you did though is you paid off your student debt. I feel like we should be celebrating.
And it's funny because like I don't. Part of me thinks like it's not a celebratory thing, but with the whole, just because student loan, the whole thing is just so screwed up. I mean, yes, I feel like I was one of the lucky ones that I didn't have too much debt to begin with, and I was able to pay it off 3.5 years early. And there's so many other people out there that are like dying from debt because companies are taking advantage of them, and the interest rates are absurdly high. And it's a bad situation. I mean, yes, it's something to celebrate. I'm lucky, but also a shout out to everybody who's still paying their student loans because it sucks.
It does. It does indeed. And it's life-changing to get out of it. I was able to pay mine off. I didn't have a lot. And then I married a rich girl, which I highly recommend. And, you know, things are good. Pony, where do you stand here?
I'm actually pretty close, but I live by myself, have a job that probably pays me too much. So that all helps out quite a bit.
Oh, I get it. You're a teacher. Those guys get paid a lot, right?
I don't think I'm qualified to teach anything about absolutely anything in this world.
He's single and therefore has a lot of disposable income, and you married rich. So I think the moral of the lesson here is either don't get married, keep disposable income, don't have kids, or just marry a rich.
Life lessons here. We're now a financial podcast.
Do not
buy Bitcoin.
Pony, I wonder if like the crunch bars might be getting in the way of you paying off your loans. I'm a little worried is all I'm saying.
I only did that once and I still have most of them left. Because I usually don't eat that much candy.
Okay, please do this. Go door to door and sell crunch bars in a Girl Scout uniform. Would you like to buy a crunch bar?
Yeah, that's a good way to get arrested.
Oh my gosh, that'd be so creepy. So creepy. And don't shave or cut your hair for like 3 months either. It'd be hilarious.
Yes.
We better get ourselves out of this. What do you guys say we start off with some news? There's not much to talk about, so we might as well get it out of the way at the top. The first one I found, I dug a little bit deep, but I didn't quite realize that David Beckham's not only being sued by Inter Milan, but also FXE football. That is the future USL team that's vying for a club in what is the name of that town?
Fort Lauderdale.
Thank you, Fort Lauderdale. Formerly of the Strikers. They're suing David Beckham because they feel like they didn't get a fair shake at getting control of that stadium, Lockhart Stadium to be exact. Anyone else want to comment on this?
Well, my only question, especially with the whole suing thing, is if Inter Milan is suing Inter Miami, like I get it, but then why does Real Madrid not care to sue Real Salt Lake or any of the other literally, Sporting Lisbon could sue Sporting Kansas City. Like I find it hilarious, honestly, but like realistically, naming your club after other ancient clubs with lots of history and all that stuff, and there are different names, seems like what everybody does. So I don't really get why one specific team would decide all of a sudden like, hey, I'm just going to sue him. Probably because Beckham's in it and they just want news. I don't really know. But I totally get the FXE football suing him. That's like legit. Like, hey, you literally stole a stadium from us.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my lawyer.
I've been excited to get a team in that stadium again. I think we've all seen those pictures of how dilapidated that stadium's gotten and how crazy that is, that it's there and looking like that. So it's good to get a team in there, but I don't think anyone thought it'd be a good idea for an MLS team to get in there, much less a team like Miami who's kind of supposed to have that spice and flavor of what they're doing, which is cool. But starting at Lockhart is such a huge disappointment. I'd much rather see a USL team would bring excitement rather than disappointment, right?
So, well, I'm just checking real quick how it is to get to Lockhart Stadium in Fort Lauderdale down to downtown Miami. So they're 32 miles. Beckham's club is 32 miles away from where they said they were going to start their club, and probably 32 years from whenever they promised that they would do it. I don't remember how long it's been. Seems like it's been forever. So, it's like if they lose that, then I think the next place might be Boca Raton or just keep on going to West Palm Beach. I don't know.
Yeah. Just a random thought I had just because I'm from St. Louis is there's been a little tiny little bitty rumor that St. Louis and Sacramento may both get it. They may just break the rules and say, I know we said one this year, but maybe we'll just let both of them come in because why not? And what if they brought them in because Miami keeps faltering and those two just go in without Miami until they get their stuff together, because it's just been falter after falter after falter. It's been a rough patch for them.
Beckham needs to back out and say, Miami's done. Go find a different city. Like, just hook up with somebody that wants to join MLS, a Sacramento or a St. Louis or whoever will take you, and then just build something from there. So that way, hey, now Beckham's involved. It's a guaranteed, getting in MLS, and then stadium's probably been taken care of in the form of Sacramento, or you could probably get a stadium pushed through, if it's St. Louis or any other city in the East, wherever you want to go. Just at this point, I would just leave Miami be.
You'd think so. I mean, they're so close now, you think, and it's such a cool.
Haven't they been so close for like 5 years?
I'm just excited about the branding, and that stadium, even though it looks like a toilet seat, is still cool. Like
the stadium is awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. I just find it like
get it done and get it started and just get it over with. It's a mess. It's a mess and a half.
Look, this is going to be a really good ESPN 30 for 30 in like 10 years.
You're right. We have that to look forward to, so that's good.
True.
The other piece of news that we have is Santi Moar winning Player of the Month last month. Or I guess, I don't know. I don't think they go by March, April. I think they just kind of go by 4 weeks. And so he won Player of the Month, and he also won Player of this current week or this previous week. Well-deserved, right, everybody?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I still have said Salt Lake keeper, but I mean, if it's going to go to offensive player, it's more of the other two that were up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, David Ochoa has been incredible, and I've enjoyed listening to you kind of give your takes on David Ochoa. And it's hard for me to disagree with you. The problem is everybody always wants the goal scorer. It just always happens. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, you need a keeper that's like 3 shutouts for them to win Player of the Month.
Right?
Was he the keeper in the New Mexico versus Monarchs game that Santi Moar got the Player of the Week for?
Well, that's actually what I was going to get to.
Yes, I think so, but it's a different month.
Yeah.
It's Player of the Month.
Fair. All right.
I'm just saying, when the two went up against each other, one of them decided, very decisively won that battle. So
also, the Monarchs apparently decided not to start their entire back line, so that happens.
Yeah, if it's just a goalkeeper versus Santi Moar, I can see that's definitely a possibility it's going to happen.
For sure. I like your take there, buddy. Let's move on though. Let's go ahead and start off with the games. I'm going to skip that fan question. We'll bring it up when we talk about that game, which is a question from Harry, which is a good one as usual. We're going to start with Memphis 901, got 0 goals. Atlanta United 2 got 1 goal. They won this game. I don't think they have too many wins. It was scored by Barajas in the 45th minute. Stats looks like Memphis kind of got the better take as far as shots and shots on target, more possession, more passes, more pass accuracy, just barely, less fouls. They kind of played a better game, but they lost. I guess that's not too big of a surprise, but that might be kind of a good thing for Memphis. These are two teams we don't necessarily consider to be good, right?
Yeah, I think that's a really good example of this. These are two teams who, at best case, are going to probably lose the play-in game. I don't think there's too much. I mean, the Atlanta keeper had a pretty good save, except for save of the week. But I think this one just has the highlights for nothing really stuck out. This isn't neither of these two teams have enough talent to make any sort of deep run right now.
Yeah,
I mean, Memphis are showing up for games though. Give their fans that.
Yeah, that's something that needs to be said, is that I think the combination of the stadium, the way they set up the baseball field, which is to me the worst thing about baseball stadiums is how far away from the field often the fans are in certain spots of the diamond. And they do that so you don't have to play soccer on the infield diamond portion. Well, Memphis just kind of said, screw that. We're going to play on the infield diamond so that we can get the fans as close as possible. So most of the game is at least 1/2 to 2/3 of the game is on the diamond. And word is from Memphis City Smitty on Twitter. I can't remember his exact handle, but you guys can find him just based on that. He said that the players are saying that they don't even know they're playing and transferring from one side to another, from one surface to another, sod to natural grass connected for months and years. So I love the atmosphere. The fans are crazy. They're really loud. I'm excited about at least the game day environment in Memphis, even if the team doesn't have it together yet.
I think you're right. Like, baseball stadiums for soccer are very, very difficult to get right. But when you do, it's really not that bad. And for me, like, the biggest part is like you said, being able to utilize the infield diamond and properly covering up the dirt and the mound and making sure that everything is as smooth as possible. Because I know just the other week there was GIFs and footage on Twitter of New York City where a player slipped and took like an entire chunk of turf up because they didn't stick to the dirt very well.
Yeah,
that's dangerous, for the player.
It is. And people talk about Louisville being so bad. Can't wait for that stadium to be done. I know that patch that pulled up Saad got some comparisons to Louisville for sure in the USL crowd, which I thought was perfect. But Memphis is doing it well. I think every team should consider trying to move everything this way, if possible, if they have a groundskeeper that can really even things out as well as the Memphis guy does. Shout out to the groundskeeper over in Memphis. Good job, fellas.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, fan-wise, I'd be willing to say this is the best year for new teams for getting the fan bases behind them USL's actually ever had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Memphis, New Mexico, El Paso, all those guys, and I'm going to forget somebody because I'm not looking at a list of teams. But there's a lot of good new teams this year that actually have really driven a fan base, which is not something we get every year, especially not as many of them.
And I'm even going to go as far as to say that Tacoma Defiance moving to Tacoma and having 2,000 to 3,000 people every week is a huge step for a 2-team. On top of that isn't quite a hybrid either. It's pretty much just a 2-team that happened to move out to Tacoma, and they have a big fan base by doing that. I think that's a good example of a good way to do that sort of thing.
Although they're still not, I remember looking at Google today, they still call them Seattle Sounders 2. And very interestingly, there's also a team in the USL called New York Red Bulls Reserves, according to Google.
Okay. Well, good job, Google.
Now, to be fair, for S2 or Tacoma or whoever, they were out at Cheney Stadium last season as well. So they moved there last season. Then this season's the rebrand, and that's another baseball field that is better than Starfire, but and they're doing a good job. It's like some situations, like, again, I think it's very difficult and challenging to make a baseball stadium work well. And it's rare when someone does it right, like Memphis. So,
yeah. And thanks for clarifying that. I did know that, but I kind of slipped my mind there for a minute there that
No worries.
Tacoma last year. Next game is Orange County 4, Sounders FC 2 is what this is called on Google. Tacoma Defiance got 0 goals on this one. So speaking of them, here's a big loss. A lot of youngsters versus what happened, was it 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah, I think Tacoma is just going to be hit and miss of what team you play. It's either going to be a free win or a close match.
I can't not mention that someone made team of the week this week.
Oh yeah, not USL quality or not MLS quality players. Remember that argument?
Yeah. I mean, there's still arguments against. So I mean, this is not me like gloating and saying I'm right, because I'm not right by any means all the way. But it is interesting that Will Bruin was put back with the Sounders first team, started a game and scored 2 goals, right? So there you go.
We're just saying.
Saying.
I know.
You have to say that's MLS quality. Now, maybe he's normally a best player, but
I think the situation is going to be like, if you're facing Tacoma, if it's an away match, like if they're coming to you, it's probably going to be an easy win. I mean, Orange County, they had Sounder. I'm reading this. I want to say Sounders 2 or S2, but I've got to put in my mind, force myself to say Tacoma. So Tacoma had 0 shots on target. I mean, Orange County just literally breezed to a win at home. And I think if you're facing them away or like at home and they come visit you, you're probably going to win. And if it's, you have to go travel to Tacoma, just hope that the first team has a game within a day or two.
Yeah. The only thing before we move on I wanted to say is that Orange County, I've been really disappointed. They were a favorite team of mine last year, and Alicia Rodriguez, someone kind of asked some question and she responded to it, and it's always a huge help if we can listen to Alicia Rodriguez. She's I think she's the main editor for Angels on Parade, the SB Nation blog. She's really good either way for if you want any LAFC info, and she's always up to date on Orange County, which you can't say for all those SB Nation sites following their two sides or affiliates. But oh shoot, I just called them an affiliate and I know they're not an affiliate. I'm going to move on and just tell you what she said, which is that yes, they just barely got their roster together right before the season started. They still have some injuries they're dealing with, and I'm not super clear on that. I'm going to see if Alan has anything to say about that before I finish talking. But it looks like they may get their stuff together. And this is other news. Frankie Amaya just got loaned over there from FC Cincinnati. U20 national team player, midfielder, the kind of guy that buzzes around and can do some good stuff in the midfield in turning the ball over and even getting forward at times. So exciting for OC to get some help here, and hopefully they improve when they get those guys back. I hope, because I enjoyed them last year. Moving on, Charlotte Independence 1, New York Red Bulls reserves. Google, thank you. Got 2 goals in this one. Tom Barlow has been heating up, as Rising Bulls podcast has been talking about, or Raising Bulls podcast, pardon me. He got a goal in the 33rd and the 36th minute against Charlotte. Nicky Jackson scored in the 25th minute for Charlotte. What do you guys think about Charlotte? Are they really as bad as all these losses in a row?
I mean, they won today, so they're not that bad.
They won today. You know what? I didn't get to see it. I was busy making these.
Spoiler alert! Sorry.
No, I'm glad to hear it. To be honest with you, because I didn't think all these losses was the real Charlotte. I don't know if anybody actually feels that way, to be honest.
I know. I was saying it would come down to how they played against Bethlehem and North Carolina. If they lost those games, I think they're in trouble. But they just got to win today, so. I think they're back on track where I had them preseason, which is high-end play-in game team.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they're still – I don't know if they're ever going to get over the defending problems they have. I think they're going to be loosey-goosey, but they're going to be fun to watch in the attack, which is totally fine. It's going to be fun. But I still don't feel like they're going to get over the defensive woes they've had so far this season. But yeah, they're not as bad as they've been so far. Kind of a slow start, though, that might also come back to bite them at the end as well. Red Bulls, too, though, plugging along. They had a decent amount of turnover this year, but they're doing just fine. Just as usual, I guess, right? Same story with them. We kind of keep repeating ourselves, but Red Bull is a team you can't forget. Pony, where do you think these guys might end up? Might have lost Pony, so I'm just going to move on. Ottawa Fury got 2 goals against Loudoun United. They kind of rolled all over them. Loudoun has had some surprising moments where they look pretty good, but Ottawa kind of dominated this game, and they looked very, very good doing it. I'm going to say Sam scored in the 34th minute, S-A-M-B, if you're looking for him. Kevin Oliveira, 52nd minute goal. Oliveira's looked pretty good for them on the wing, and Ottawa's just a really good-looking team. They're kind of my new OC, and I've been high on them since the beginning of the season, and I'm glad they at least look good, even if they're not winning every game that they should be.
Why does Google have a thing over the E in Kevin Oliveira? What that like apostrophe thing that goes over a letter? I don't know what it's actually called.
I think he is of Hispanic descent, so I think that's probably legit. We just in Twitter we often just skip over that because we're on our cell phones. But
well, yeah, and English keyboards don't provide a very easy access to extra appropriate letters and stuff. But I saw that, I'm like, if it's not pronounced Kevin, like my name, how is it pronounced? I'm confused.
I wonder. I think it's still like Kevin or Kevin. Who knows? I would like to give you an answer to that.
Yeah. I know you don't. It's probably just I'm going off topic. I noticed that. I was like, wait, what? Can I put that on my name now?
I think you should try. Do it.
No.
Getting a little late in life.
I'm a 36-year-old white male. I'm not doing that.
Just something of note in this game. Fury got 18 shots, 7 on target, 62% possession versus 4 shots, 2 on target for Loudon. Pretty big dominance there. This is the Loudon I was thinking, but they've had a couple wins, so we'll see what they do throughout the year as far as who they play and how they use them and how well they do. Moving on, Pittsburgh Riverhounds 3, Hartford Athletic 1. Hartford continuing their loss streak, still have not played a game at home, although there was a hell of a banger from Jose Angulo in the 54th minute. For the most part, the Riverhounds controlled this game. Steven Dos Santos in the 14th, Kevin Kerr in the 74th, Nico Brett in the 81st. That was a penalty. 18 shots, 6 on goal for Pittsburgh versus 10-2 for Hartford. Not too good. And Pittsburgh got the possession. Hartford is probably trying to focus on defense. So you would think that those two things would be in Hartford's favor. They were not. They need to get their attack together. I'm not liking how they look, but I know I am going to stick up for them. I know Ryan gave that stat about them being as bad as Antigua, Bermuda in the first year. Obviously, no one said this, but I think it maybe goes without saying that this is a different USL, that the playing level that Hartford's having to face is totally different than what Antigua was having to face back in the day. So even though the record and ELO ratings are different, I think obviously Hartford's a much better team, but they are struggling in this version of the USL, and we'll have to watch and see if they improve when they get some home games. What do you think, Kev?
I don't know. Yes, I agree with you. They're not nearly probably as bad as Antigua. It is a completely different league. Level of play is much higher. I know that Evan had, or Pony had a tweet. What's the word I'm looking for? Survey thing. Vote to see who would get the last win first, or who would get their first win last.
That's right.
I know that Hartford won by a mile, and I also voted for Hartford. But I mean, could they get a win in this season? I'm sure that stuff is going to fall in their favor at some point. I'm sure they can get a win, so they're not going to be Antigua bad. But are they going to be like, say, T2 in 2017 bad? I could see that. Three wins, maybe 3 wins, 4 wins.
I think they're going to pick up toward the end of the season, because I think maybe fitness will start going in their favor toward the end, and defending. I think they'll get their stuff together on the defense, because Jimmy Nielsen is so good at that sort of thing. We've said before that he got to the Western Conference final the last year he was there in OKC. So I don't think it'd be that bad. Let's move on, though. Atlanta United 2 played another game against North Carolina FC. ATL UTD2 scored 2 goals. North Carolina FC scored 1. Unexpected here. I didn't see this one. Kevin didn't either, but we will read off the stats. Gordon Wild in the 25th, Jackson Conway in the 67th for Atlanta. Marios Lomas has been very impressive this year. That is a player to watch if you haven't already. This guy's been very good, playing as kind of a 10 or a removed striker for North Carolina. He's got a great foot. He's got a good eye for goal. Seems like a striker for sure, playing up top and doing a very good job of it. The stats were very close. 17 shots, 6 on target for Atlanta, 19-7 for North Carolina. However, Atlanta had the ball for 59% of the possession. Very impressive. Young kids playing with 59% of the possession as they're being taught to do it, to play the game right. Usually that doesn't go well for them, but in this case it did, and I'm happy to see that for them every once in a while. Here we go. Good. Kevin is saving me on this next one because I thought Evan was going to be here. I didn't post the stats. Figured he'd have plenty to talk about. Bethlehem Steel versus Charleston. Kevin, give us some thoughts on this one.
Well, they got the win, 3-1 for the Steel. Fabinho was playing with Steel, so getting a little help from the mothership. Got the penalty, put the penalty away in the 67th. But at that point, the Steel was up 2-1. Charleston got one. I think this one, it looks like Steel, got the deserved win. Both teams had 4 shots on target. Bethlehem Steel, nicked possession 52 to 48%. Looks like it was a pretty heavy foul game, 17 fouls for Steel, 19 committed by the Battery, 4 yellow cards all combined. So, I mean, I know that Steel haven't been doing as well as I think maybe expectations had them, but getting their 3rd win of the season is pretty good.
Without a doubt. And Evan did kind of send me a couple messages, and one of them did say that Bethlehem Steel are just going to be up and down throughout the whole season. So he's expecting lots of, flashes of good, a lot of losses randomly. And so, yep.
Well, it keeps them in the top 10 group pretty well. Like they're tied between the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th teams with all with 10 points. They're within striking distance of the top. So, if you're going to go up and down, being in 5th place is not a bad place to be.
Without a doubt, actually. That's actually very good. I didn't quite realize they were doing that well. So, so there you go on that one. Pony, are you back with us?
I think so.
Yes, you are.
I say Comcast decides just to reboot my router at times.
Fair enough.
Like I'm even wired connection. It goes, nope, reset.
Oh, that's the worst. Yeah, I'm wired, and it's ever since I switched to wired, it's been pretty good. Podcasters out there, switch to wired. It helps. It's much better.
Unless you have Comcast, apparently.
Right, exactly. Unless you're on Comcast. Tampa Bay Rowdies scored 1 versus Louisville City, who also scored 1. So it was a draw. Andrew Tenari in the 15th had a great goal. I enjoyed watching that one. I did not watch long enough to see Abdou Mbake Tiam in the 88th minute. I did my best there. Sorry if I messed that up. 13 shots with 2 on target for Tampa Bay. Not too good versus 17 shots, 8 on target for Louisville. They had 59% of the possession. Louisville did. Louisville puts a lot of shots on goal, I've noticed. And I feel like a little bit of this season has been bad luck, but only a little bit. Pony, I know you have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say if Louisville lost this game, it was complete panic time for them. But they just seem inefficient. It's kind of weird coming from Zach, who's suffered this for the few years. It seems like that team where the pieces are there, but they actually can't just get over the hump no matter how much they try. I think this is almost more scary for Tampa playing at home against a struggling team. You want to completely shut them down, get your 3 points before they figure out what's going on. I might have just been an off day for Tampa, but to me, this is the time you want to play Louisville for all teams because they haven't quite figured it out and they're hurt. This is the time you play them and try to get 3 points before we get to late summer and Louisville's back and making a run up the table from 5th or 6th place to try to get 2nd or 3rd.
So is this game, is this a matter of perhaps Louisville being worse than Tampa or Tampa not doing enough? Because Louisville had 17 shots total, 8 on target, and 60% possession. So they dominated possession. They had their chances. Now, if it was just inefficient finishing, that's unlucky. But if Tampa Bay was doing well enough to prevent the goals, like in the defense is there, and they are unlucky they didn't get another goal, but they only had 2 shots on target. So 50% conversions, that's good. Versus what's 1/8, 12.5% conversion, pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, the Tampa Bay keeper one was on the team of the week for a reason. He had a few good saves in there. I mean, Louisville could have easily stole this game.
Yeah, and a few things from the chat. Alan Underwood, who I trust, also thought, just like I did, he thought Tampa Bay played better, but I didn't watch the entire game, so I didn't want to say that. But Tampa Bay is one of my favorite teams in the East right now. I like how they play, and I think they've been very talented. Another thing that Carson, Lou City FC, said is that the team battled, and they're missing their starting attackers. Ownby's out. They played this game without him and Luke Spencer, and I just assumed this was going to be a terrible loss and it was going to be a bad score. But look at Louisville battling through and holding their own with, basically half a team almost at this point, right?
Yeah, if nothing else, Louisville is probably the most resilient side in the USL. They've proved that year over year.
And without James O'Connor, and I think that's one of the biggest things to notice is that Hackworth is pushing these guys, maybe not as much as JOC, but close, if not at the same, which is there's a lot to be said for that. And maybe it's just holdover for the culture that JOC put on here. But anyway, that's a whole conversation. We'll move on to the next game. RGV Toros scored.
No, the next game's Portland versus Sacramento.
Oh, sorry, Kev. Why don't you lead us with this one? Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. So Portland won 1-0 on a penalty kick. My question to Pony, since you're here, I don't feel that T2 was as good as they could have been. I mean, taking 16 shots, but the only shot they even got on frame was the penalty kick. So they were extremely wasteful. And then also only winning 1-0 when you're up 2 men at the end. It seems like they wasted some opportunities there.
Yeah, I mean, I watch probably about 5 or 6 games a week, depending on how the schedule breaks out. This is probably without really doubt the worst game I've seen all season from both teams. I mean, if you didn't watch the game, don't go watch it. It's not even remotely worth your time to go watch this game.
Yep.
Both teams played horribly. The ref got super card happy in the second half. Both the players who got sent off from Sacramento got sent off for 2 second-half yellow cards as they came off the bench.
Yep. Yeah. Well, yeah, because Bijev came in the 46th minute, so he came in at halftime and got his first card in the 57th and his second one in the 63rd.
Yeah, and the second one was a very questionable second yellow card. If it's the first one, sure, maybe, but I don't see that one as one you normally call for a second yellow to send someone off.
Well, and the other thing too with that, like if that was MLS, there's no way a ref would have done a second yellow. Like he got the ball, and the only reason I could even think that it was a second yellow is because his follow through, leg that didn't tackle came up. But I mean, that's not the one that he put the force through to get the ball. That's just his trailing leg. I didn't see studs up or anything. Just it came up higher and went through the player, but there wasn't like a whole lot of force into it. Second yellow, like I get it, maybe, but yeah, it's a really soft yellow.
Yeah, if it's the first yellow, I could get it if the game's getting out of hand and the ref wants to calm it down, if that's a yellow for the first one. But I remember I'm kind of keeping some ref stats. This was this guy's first USL game this season. And not the greatest. Yeah. I mean, but really both teams played far worse than they normally have. It was a horrible game for Sacramento. Portland didn't do too much to deserve any points either. I mean, you could just say this is one of those games where neither team deserved anything. They would have lost almost any other team if they showed up against them. Oh,
for sure. I agree with you 100%. And again, because like the only shot that T2 could put on goal was a penalty kick.
Right.
And that was it.
Yeah, there were 3 shots on goal the entire game.
Yeah. And then Chansopoulos was the other one that got the second yellow. He came in on the 69th. He subbed on in the 69th minute and got his first yellow in the 78th and then ejected in the 91st.
Yeah, the 91st minute one, I mean, again, second yellow, questionable, but easily, yes, that would be a clear first yellow.
Yeah. That one was more second yellowish for me than the first one because he did like grab and spin the player.
Yeah.
And also 91st minute, that's not going to necessarily be like game result affecting as getting one taken out in the 63rd minute. So because you'll only have like 3 more minutes of stoppage time there. But still, like it sucks for you guys because that's 2 players that you're out on the next game.
Yeah, but basically, don't watch this game. It's not worth your time.
Nope.
And that's from some of the biggest fans of their teams. That's awesome.
It's true. We're both like, no, don't watch the game. It's not worth your time.
If you want to see these teams play at their floor, go ahead and watch this game.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's move on to the one that I was about to say. Thanks for stopping me there. RGV Toros 2-1 for OKC Energy. For RGV, Michael Salazar in the 54th, Jesus Enriquez in the 87th. Alan Harris scored 2 minutes into extra time for OKC Energy. Looks like RGV kind of owned this one. I think I heard that they had 5 MLS loans down for this one. I don't know what quality those MLS loans are because that does make a difference. Did anyone see this one?
No.
I just watched the highlights.
Yeah.
I don't know if Houston Dynamo are that good this year, so them loaning down MLS players may not have much of an effect because their first teams, it's the Dynamo. Sometimes they're good, most of the time they're bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and their loans typically from the first team they're not typically as quality as, say, what Defiance did or what Swope did in that one game. There's different.
Also true because they have to travel so much farther. Like with Portland, they can literally just put some first team players across the river, play at Merlot, or even play in the same stadium. Seattle has to go about 30 some odd miles south to Tacoma. It's not that long of a bus ride. And then, RGV, they're a good distance out from Houston. I think maybe an hour, 2 hours. I don't know off the top of my head, but that's farther for them to go. So they're not necessarily going to send some of their better first team players when they're going much farther than some of these other sides.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The next game I'll talk about a bit. St. Louis lost their first game, and it was to Birmingham Legion after beating Nashville and Indy, and Tampa Bay got a draw. They lost to Birmingham of all teams, but Birmingham has 2 wins away, and they played a smart game, I think. I think they weathered the storm of St. Louis's attack in the beginning and in the end, especially. St. Louis had other flashes, but for the most part, Birmingham was able to weather it and be just dangerous enough to score 3 goals throughout the game. I think a big help was J.J. Williams coming down from the Columbus Crew. That dude is a hoss. He's very talented. He was head and shoulders and more above all of our players on multiple either crosses or corners. I can't remember what they were exactly, but he had 2-headed goals, and both were very good, and he was well above our guys, so who aren't small either. So no excuses there. Birmingham came in 40% possession. St. Louis had to possess the ball for the first time this season. They were averaging 40% before. So I think Birmingham came in and played a smart game, took their chances and won. I think as a St. Louis fan, I'm not really scared. I'm not disappointed necessarily. They've been a little bit loosey-goosey on some of the set piece plays has been their only weakness this year. And I think that's one thing they may need to button up, but for the most part, they were still dangerous. For the most part, the press was pretty good, maybe a little worse in this one. Again, the weather was terrible, just like against Charlotte. So this is going to happen, but I don't know. What do you guys think, Pony? Does this affect your thoughts about St. Louis, about being first in the league? Do you think they're going to even out and come down quite a bit?
I mean, I think first is a stretch to say they're going to be that good.
Yeah.
But I think they're better than we all thought. I could see him hosting a first round playoff game. That's kind of where I see St. Louis ending up right now. Birmingham isn't really a bad team either. I think I had them as the number 2 new team this year behind New Mexico, and I still think that's probably true. They're talented enough to hold their own. They're not talented enough to make a good playoff run at this point, but they're not bad.
Interesting. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I wouldn't be too concerned. I mean, you're sitting at top of the Eastern Conference all alone, and between St. Louis, T2, and New Mexico, as one of the top 3 teams in the entire league on points and really results, I think, over the course of the early season.
Mm-hmm.
It's early, anything can happen, but I think St. Louis is going to be up there for sure at the top in the end. Maybe not at the top, but they'll be up there.
Listen, hosting a game in the playoffs is much higher than any of us would have thought, even coming into the season. Even me, who I drafted them way too early, if we were being normal in our little draft there. So, yeah, I mean, this is good for St. Louis fans, and everyone should be really happy. Let's move on to El Paso against El Paso Locomotive 0, Phoenix Rising 2. They got a win finally. First win of the season. Junior Fleming's in the 7th, Ben Spencer in the 77th.
Lucky win, 7.
37% possession for Phoenix in this one.
Man.
So is this the real Phoenix? Are they going to start picking it up and winning again? I know there's been a lot of pressure on them for the bad start.
I mean, yes and no. The first goal was just a bad El Paso play. But I mean, I'm not completely sold Phoenix is back, because El Paso I don't think is a great team, and they should be beating El Paso. I mean, I guess props to them that while having a really odd first month of the season, they took down a not good opponent in the way they're supposed to take them down. I'd like to see them get a couple more wins here, but I think Phoenix is better than where they're on the table for sure. I think they're borderline hosting a home game right now.
It really feels like Phoenix was just absorbing pressure and counterattacking. El Paso had all the possession, lots more passes, more passing accuracy, no pressure, I don't think really, but only one shot on target. So Phoenix only had to face a single shot on target, and they put 5 on the other direction. So I think it was just absorb pressure, counter, and hope for something. And like Pony said, first goal was a mistake. Second one, they got 2. They got the win. They desperately needed it. They'll still be good, but at this point, I am questioning a little bit if they're going to be top of the West.
To have a game where you have 63% possession and 1 shot on target, I know you guys said not to watch your game, but this one might be pretty boring in itself. So
also true.
Yeah.
There are 2 goals scored, so
that's good. That's good.
And the only goal scored wasn't on a penalty either, so
right, exactly.
Also true.
Well said there. Asante didn't go down in the box and get a penalty. The next one was a blowout. We talked about it a little bit earlier. New Mexico United 5, Real Monarchs 1. What's funny about this is same amount of shots. New Mexico had 8 on target. Real Monarchs only 4 on target. 60% possession for Real Monarchs. Is it becoming a thing like in the USL? You don't want the ball because if you have the ball too much, you might lose. It's starting to look that way today.
It's just Monarchs are one of those teams where they have no defense. Their defense is probably bottom 3rd, if even that nice in the league, but they have a good offense. And we saw in this game, the offense misfires. And when the offense misfires and you have a bad defense, you're not going to win games. The Monarchs, Red Bulls, Tulsa, they're all the same team to me, where if they score 2-3 goals, they could also score their 4th and 5th, but they're never going to win 1-0. These teams just aren't built that way, and it's frustrating to watch a game where you go, this team's going to have to score 2 goals to have a chance to get a point. And with those teams, if they can't score, as we saw here, they're going to get blown out, especially when New Mexico's offense clicks and Moar decides to back up his month-long Player of the Year award.
With a season MVP.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. I don't really have a lot to say about that. In some ways, I think it's interesting because a lot of times it's funny to see goalkeepers who are on a team with a terrible defense get a lot of attention because they do such a good job making so many saves. So that's one thing where I guess maybe we should be looking at that, where David Ochoa is that good, but he's also getting attention because he's having to do so much damn work. But interesting to keep watching that. That was his first game to give up more than 1, if I'm not mistaken. He's had a lot of shutouts, hasn't he?
I believe so. It's like for him and Luraro, I'm not surprised they're right, the New Mexico keeper. Like if you sent them to Pittsburgh, they probably would be keeper of the year, and that would be the end of the story.
Right, you're right. Lily always, yeah, exactly. That's a good shout. Let's move on to the next one. Nashville SC got 2 goals. Memphis 901 got 0 goals. Cross-state rivalry there. Matt LaGrassa in the 78th. Rapapa Mensah making his super sub appearance in the 81st. I think that's his first goal of the year, if I'm not mistaken. 21 shots from Nashville, 7 on target versus Memphis's 6 and 1. The possession was somewhat close, but in Nashville's favor. Anyone catch this one? Nashville's been so dominant. I think they're one of the best teams in the East. What do you guys think?
I think they're the best team in the league.
Only 2 goals after 21 shots, really?
I mean, that is a bit disappointing. I'm with you there, but at least they were dominating the play for sure. They didn't sit back.
Their efficiency is questionable. That's going to be what does them in the end if they don't win the cup. It's going to be a game where they do have 16 shots, 5 on goal, and score 1, and they get beat 2-1 by somebody.
Yeah.
But if they're playing well, I think they have the highest ceiling of any team. If you want to invoke the, hey, MLS next year, TAM, GAM stuff, and that we don't like. I mean, we saw it almost work last year. Maybe it'll almost work again this year, but Nashville's good, and Memphis is just that you could see they're not on the same level as the top teams in the East, and it happened a couple times this week.
Yep. Yeah. One thing to note here is Ben Wright in Speedway Soccer. I always mess that up, but Ben Wright posts ELO ratings in the form of a chart, like a line chart, and it's really nice to watch, to look at. Every week is kind of updated with its new point on the graph. And so he did point out that on that graph, Nashville did take the lead in ELO ratings for the East. So Pony's saying that they're the best team in the league, not that far off as far as if you're in a stats guy, which Pony you are, right? Do you have any stats to back that up?
Ryan's actually running that this year. I'm running projections, season-long projections.
I see. Okay,
So
maybe
we
we'll
have to ask someone who's studying for finals.
Yeah. Hey, I like to hear that Nashville's best team in the league because they did get picked first in the draft. So
That's
Uh,
true. Oh, I forgot that.
by me.
There you go.
It's the obvious number one pick still, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking today, I was just reflecting on all of our picks and how off they are and thinking how stupid it is that we make picks in the preseason.
Yeah.
But I still love it. I really do. I still think it's a lot
fun.
of fun. Yeah, and it's fun to see if sometimes you're right. And it's honestly still educational to see how off you are, you know, and to see why you're wrong and all that.
It's gonna be fun this season because like the only independent side that I have is Nashville, and I got 5-2 teams, and like other than Nashville and probably Loudoun or whoever else, I don't even know if is Loudoun in the West or the East. They're in the West.
In the East.
They're East. Okay, so I've got like 4 teams in the West,
Mhm.
2 in the East, and I'm like, I need Nashville to win MLS Cup if I want to have any chance of winning the draft.
Mhm.
Basically, that's all.
The next game is Las Vegas Lights versus Tacoma Defiance. Vegas won 5-0. Red card. Daly rather in the 63rd minute had a lot to do with that, I'm sure. But
what is Tacoma's goal difference? I'm looking that up right now because
actually it had nothing to do
bad.
with it. All the goals were scored before the red card. So
minus 15 goal difference. That is the worst in the league by far. Hartford only has a minus 11, and those are the only 2 teams with double digits, whether it's for or against.
You know, I've been thinking this week too. I do a lot of reflecting on my own opinions, if it's not clear already. But I've been thinking this week too that I put too much emphasis on Tacoma doing things badly. I really do love, like, there is a balance to me hating all the stupid loans. And the other balance is that Tacoma's putting out a lot of young kids playing against men. And that's really good for our national team. I don't want that to be lost in the shuffle here because I really do appreciate that they're doing that. And that in some cases, the kids look pretty good against grown men. But, you know, I guess
they have 2 wins. Tacoma's got 2 wins.
Well, let's say 1. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's say 1.
I don't have problems with playing kids. Just do it in League One if you're going to play that much of a team is just going to get blown out this much. If you're losing if you have -5 goal differential and still have 2 wins this early in the season, go to League One and play the kids.
Maybe.
-15, not 5, 15. There's a 1 before the 5.
But here's the deal. What if Pony, like we talked about earlier in the show, that they're bringing out 2,000 or 3,000 people to every single game, which is better than Charlotte. Okay. But yeah, they're playing kids. Let's say they get rid of the stupidness that was that game where they sent 5 or 6 MLSers down. Let's say they would never do that in a season, but they brought 3,000 to every single game. Would you accept that? Would you be okay with that? Or would you still want to send them down to League One? Because I think I'd rather keep them.
It depends if they're competitive. I mean, if you remove that one game and just it doesn't exist, they have 1 win, which is 1-0 over RGV, who also plays the kids a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, I'd like a team who you don't say a good season is finishing 2 or 3 spots clear of the basement. I mean, if they can't consistently commit to a team that at least is vaguely in playoff contention because they're playing too many youngsters, I don't think you need to be in USL. That's the USL 1 team who's a little bit more developmentally based than USL, which is a lot of teams who are starting almost bad MLS teams. I think the best teams in the USL would be bad MLS teams, and I don't want a team who's going to play the Seattle high school all-star team playing against Nashville and Phoenix and all those sides.
I can see that for sure. Kevin, you any thoughts before we kind of move on?
No.
I know we've beaten this to death a little bit.
We can just go for it again.
Yeah, right. Las Vegas won this game 5-0, and I'm trying to figure out. I'm scrolling down really far. It's hard to tell. That's their 2nd win of the year. Las Vegas Lights. I've been thinking they were worse than that, so I just wanted to kind of look that up. Not great, but not awful. Not as bad as I thought. So
they're one of those teams that's good at home and really bad on the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed your talk about Cashman Field last week in the foam party. That was fun. So Vegas doing their thing as usual. Colorado Switchbacks slumping a little bit. 2-0 loss at home versus Reno 1868. Casiple in the 64th. Brian Brown got another one in 3 minutes into extra time. Pretty close game as far as shots on target, but it was 24 shots to 15 in favor of Colorado Switchbacks. Kind of had a bad game finishing, I guess. Anyone catch this one?
No, but Harry did have a question about it.
Oh, is this the one he had the question about? This is the one that was postponed.
Yes.
Here's what he asked. So here is my question for the USL show. Should they have postponed this game? I say they should have for the safety of the players and the fans. It's not like Colorado Switchback shares the stadium with other teams. Hats off to the groundskeeper on getting the field cleared. So I guess I don't know how long it got postponed, but it sounds like it was postponed until it was totally safe, but they still were able to play on a wet field and get the game done. I guess that's the right way to handle it.
Was it rain or snow?
I think it was rain. Oh, maybe it was snow.
I mean, it's April, and I know that recently the Rapids had postponed their game against the Sounders because of snow. Now they played the season opener against Timbers. They didn't postpone it. I mean, I could care less one way or the other, but so I think, like, for me, if you're able to play the game, just go for it, get it done. People have probably already shown up. Starting it late, like an hour or so late, that's a little rough, or however long it was postponed. But if you can finish it, great.
So it was snow, and so I guess that's reminiscent of that Colorado game this year. I forgot who they played, but where they played through the snow. A lot of players said that their body temperature dropped several degrees for days after, something like that, or maybe
hours. It was the MLS opener, Colorado Rapids versus Portland Timbers.
Thank you. Oh, so you would know. Thank you. Man, that was an ugly game, and I guess in this case they postponed it, cleared the field, and played it. That sounds to me like that's probably the better way to do it if you're looking at the other game, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So good job. Good question, Harry. We agree with you, buddy. I think that was the right thing to do. No surprise that we agree. Fresno beat Tulsa Roughnecks 3-1. That's the first place team in the West took a loss, just like the first place team in the East. Fresno, Jamal Johnson scored 2 goals, and Jaime Chavez scored in the 55th minute for them. Hanu Silva in the 39th minute for the Roughnecks. Not what's his name, who keeps scoring for them, Lobo. So
that brings. I mean, Fresno's still undefeated. They only have 2 wins, but they've only played 5 games. I mean, 2 wins, 3 draws, 9 points. They're in 6th place, but still no losses. And that is Tulsa's first loss. You're right.
Their ELO rating is
Tulsa's lost more games than that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought they lost. No, you're right. They did, but they're still.
Oh no, you're right. I was reading the wrong. Yeah, they lost 3 games. I'm sorry. I read the wrong column. They have 1 draw. I can't read the numbers.
Aren't they still in first, or did they lose it now?
No, they're in 4th.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, and they played more games than everyone below them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. So they were lower than that, even probably. So.
T2 is in first place with 13 points from only 6 games, and then New Mexico United's tied with them 13 points, but from 7 games.
Very nice. Okay, so Fresno, what I was going to say is their ELO ratings are very high, and I think they're maybe even better than I think we're giving them credit for. Tulsa is going to keep falling. I think we predicted that, even though this game was actually pretty close as far as the stats are concerned. I won't read them off, but just know that they're pretty close. Mm-hmm. Something to watch there. San Antonio.
Yeah, well, going back real quick, I would say Fresno, their offense isn't great, but their defense is statistically in games allowed the number 1 defense in the West right now. And overall, they're number 3. I mean, Fresno's only allowed 3 goals in 5 games.
That's an interesting thought, because in the West last year, I liked Fresno a lot, and they seem to have trouble in 2 things. They let up more goals than they should have. Maybe like 1 more goal than they should have in a lot of different games, maybe even as many as 3/4 of them. And then I always thought they couldn't score quite as much as they couldn't finish as well as you would expect based on their shots and shots on target. Did you have any of those thoughts, Pony?
Yeah, I mean, last year their problem was again scoring and not defense. I mean, they allowed 38 goals in 34 games. They actually had a +6 goal differential, and they finished the season down in 12th.
And I know if you're just listening to this game and you hear Pony say they didn't score enough and they didn't defend well enough, I know that sounds obvious, but to be honest, it was like those margins to me personally with the eye test, they were just barely not scoring enough and just barely not defending enough. And a lot of other teams, it's really obvious. Well, this team can't score. It's really obvious. This team can't defend. It's really obvious. With these two, they were just so close on both of those sides. I thought just a little improvement, this is the kind of thing that could happen. And that's why I think it's kind of legit.
I think their defense last year is actually fine. I mean, if you look at them, they're tied for second for least goals allowed in the West with 38 goals. I mean, they're tied with Phoenix and Reno and St. Louis for being strong defensive sides, and they just couldn't get the goals. They only had, like I said, 44 goals. That puts them in, it's looking at tied for 9th. Or no, tied for 10th. And that's why they missed playoffs. They couldn't score. If they could keep scoring a goal and a half per game, they're a playoff team and a dangerous playoff team if this defense holds.
Good stuff. Well said, Pony. San Antonio scored 2 and they beat Los Dos, who scored 0 goals. Bradford Jamison got on the score sheet, 14 in the 14th minute with a nice goal. Ever Guzman in the 35th minute. 12 shots to 9. Los Dos had none on target, whereas San Antonio had 4 on target. Neither team really did incredibly well. San Antonio only had 42% of possession. I guess this is just kind of how you beat these two sides that try to own the ball. Good job to San Antonio, but I don't know if that's something you should brag about per se. So any thoughts on San Antonio or Los Dos this year?
Los Dos is just another up and down 2 team. I mean, like a lot of these other ones, they could come out and beat anyone, or they could come out and just embarrass themselves any week.
Yeah, I hate to say it, they're a little bit irrelevant this year, and maybe the only thing that made them relevant last year was they had so many cool, interesting Mexican-American players, if we're going to be honest. So,
I mean, they are 5th in the West right now.
Are they really?
Yeah, 3 wins, 3 losses.
Well, their defense is terrible. I'm just going to say that, and I don't expect much from them. So
they actually have a negative goal differential in 5th.
There you go. Okay. And it's not because they can't score. It's because the defense is that bad, in my opinion. I don't know.
Second worst.
Okay, thank you. Thank God you're here. You're correcting me in the right spots, but you also just backed me up a little bit, and I appreciate it.
There we go.
I appreciate both. All right, guys, that's all the games in both conferences for the week of 6. Any thoughts before we head out about how the season's going? Any surprises, any disappointments in the season, different teams?
I think my internet died before I got to it, but New York out east, I think you can make the argument they are the best East team if you really want to. Because they've looked good every single game. That defense is still bad, but the offense has consistently shown up.
It is.
I'm waiting to see what happens when it actually doesn't click in one game.
Yeah, I watched Indy the other day. I don't think I forgot to put that on this list, but I watched Indy versus Swope Park.
It's technically week 7.
Yeah, that it is. So I won't say too much, but I think Indy is a good team, but they still are pretty faulty to me. Not that they won't be necessarily outside the top 5, but if we're going to talk about elite in the East, Indy's up there, but still maybe faltering a bit. But I think Nashville, New York, like you mentioned, 2 really good teams in the East right now.
Yeah, I don't think you could put Indy anything worse than 4th.
Okay, fair. And yeah, their defense has been getting better, but they played Swope. Swope looked pretty terrible. I think they're going to be really bad this year. I think they've bailed on bringing in lots of veterans, and they've gone all youth. And so, and that's something else. Before we go, this is the last thing I'll say, is that I do think a lot of those 2 teams have gone younger and younger, and they've bailed on the veterans, like I just said, in a lot of cases. And I think perhaps that's preparation to go down to League One if it's good enough. And in my opinion, it is good enough. If you're watching League One, if you're listening to League One Fun, Greenville Triumph had a hell of a goal this year with beautiful buildup, beautiful passing in the final third. It was gorgeous, and it was League One. And yeah, part of that's because the defending is that much worse, but it's still fun to watch, right? So watch League One, and it's a good thing for us championship folks to watch League One and kind of get a gauge, and especially the Open Cup as it comes. we can kind of gauge how good some of those League One teams are. I bet they take out a few championship teams.
Yep. And for a measly $5 a month, you can get ESPN Plus and watch all the U.S. Open Cup games, all of them. Surprisingly.
Thank goodness.
Basically everything.
Yeah, well, and everything, all the USL Championship, everything. It's lots of soccer for $5 a month.
Yeah, you guys really nailed that conversation last week. I mean, and it was awesome. But definitely go get into that. Get into League One fun. Thank you for listening to our show. ESPN Plus needs to freaking, at this point, they need to sponsor us. I keep meaning to give them a call. But we do have a sponsor, and that sponsor is Roughneck Scarves. It's the official scarf supplier of MLS, USL, and US Soccer. Get custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com. Kev, where can people find you online?
Oh, whenever I'm on Twitter and have the time, you can find me at KMcCamishPDX.
You should get more lazy at work now that you don't have to earn as much money. You paid off those loans. You're good to go, pal.
I run an entire department now. That's why I was able to pay off my loans.
Fancy. Good thing you had that grad school. Pony, where can people find you?
I am on the Twitters at USL_Pony.
And I'm Phil Grooms, 2 L's, 2 O's on Twitter. We are the USL Show. We stream live every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for logging in. If you have, there's a nice chat if you want to join us, as we will mention from time to time throughout the show. So please do that on our YouTube page. Just look us up at the USL Show. And we'll post it online as always as a podcast, thanks to the Beautiful Game Network. Thanks again for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next week. And we're out.